Housekeeping. Keeping up the house of the being. Straightening and polishing the furniture of the body. Sweeping clean the gathered dust of the mind. Freshly making the bed of the heart. Preparing nourishing food for the soul. Welcome to the latest floating poetry broadcast, and thank you for leaning in, some of you again, some of you often, to show 133 in my ongoing weekly series, coming to you live from the body and soul nourishing coast of the ocean state, Rhode Island. This is your poet and poetorialist, Colin Goedecke, a voice for living our days more fully, more lively, more poetically. In broadcast 132, we put a lens on resilience, on our ability to stand forth with inner and outer strength, to adapt, rebound, meet our challenges, our setbacks, and weather adversities with great resolve, with vital energy. Being resilient in mind, heart, body, spirit, and also adding our buoyancy to whatever community, city, or town, country we belong to, and to our society, our species, our humanity. This week, taking better, greater care of ourselves. And in and for these supremely stressful times, radical self-care. Physically to emotionally to socially. Tending and attending, resting and replenishing, nourishing and nurturing daily, deeply. Also heightening our awareness, keeping our wits about us, steering clear of any and all hazards, dangers, local or larger. Sharpening that innate sixth sense we all have, however unused, and beyond our own outer and inner self, taking loving care of a partner, maybe an aging or infirm parent, or anyone else under our wing. And sensitive care with the vulnerabilities of others you know or encounter aside, especially the young and impressionable, or those more fragile. Showing kindness in abundance for innocent strangers included, whose life stories, issues, tragedies you may never know. No less, dear listeners, caring far more for the well-being of our natural world, the one that gives me, you, everyone the ability to exist, gives great beauty as well, brings such joy and inspiration. Well, let's make our way together into some cultural commentary, poetry, and inquiry, and see what we wonder about along the way, what we feel into, maybe newly discover. Living in the Body by Joyce Sutphin. Body is something you need in order to stay on this planet, and you only get one. And no matter which one you get, it will not be satisfactory. It will not be beautiful enough. It will not be fast enough. It will not keep on for days at a time, but will pull you down into a sleepy swamp and demand apples and coffee and chocolate cake. Body is a thing you have to carry from one day into the next. Always the same eyebrows over the same eyes and the same skin when you look in the mirror, and the same creaky knee when you get up from the floor, and the same wrist under the watchband. The changes you can make are small and costly. Better to leave it as it is. Body is a thing that you have to leave eventually. You know that because you have seen others do it, others who were once like you, living inside their pile of bones and flesh, smiling at you, loving you, leaning in the doorway, talking to you for hours, and then one day they are gone. No forwarding address. Living in the Body by Joyce Sutphin. Thank you, Joyce, for that. Nurture by Maxine Kumin, Kumin. From a documentary on marsupials, I learned that a pillowcase makes a fine substitute pouch for an orphan kangaroo. I am drawn to such dramas of animal rescue. They are warm in the throat. I suffer, the critic proclaims, from an overabundance of maternal genes. Bring me your fallen fledgling, your bummer lamb. Lead the abused, the starvelings, into my barn. Advise the hunted deer to leap into my corn. And had there been a wild child, filthy and fierce as a ferret, he is called in one 19th century account, a wild child to love, it is safe to assume, given my fireside inked with paw prints, there would have been room. Think of the language we too, same and not same, might have constructed from sign, scratch, grimace, grunt, vowel. Laughter our first noun, and our long verb, howl. Thank you, Maxine Cumin. That's from Selected Poems, 1960 to 1990. Nurture. Carving out a lifetime for two newlyweds. I wrote this back in July of 2009 for them. With bone and flesh, hand and heartiness, you carve out a lifetime of summer steaks salted with sea air, and fireflies and turkeys with wings giving thanks, Easter lambs saying rosemaries, Christmas roasts and rosiness, crusty loaves, an air of comforting lightness. You feed and are fed and nourished, wield a blade with heed and without bleeding, as you preside and guide with simple tools and grace at the table of your life. Some of you, many of you may know, of a certain age may know this poem, but from back in time, quite back in time, by Robert Herrick, To the Virgins, To Make Much of Time. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying, and this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying. The glorious lamp of heaven, the sun, the higher he's a-getting, the sooner will his race be run, and nearer he's to setting. That age is best which is the first, when youth and blood are warmer, but being spent the worse, and worse times still succeed the former. Then be not coy, but use your time, and while ye may go marry, for having lost but once your prime, you may forever tarry. Thank you, Robert Herrick. Long into the ether, that one. Well, I am a great proponent, as some of you know, and practicer of radical self-care, not just poetic care, although that's part of it, and especially critical, as I was alluding to in these times of such daily wearing and tearing on our nerves and bodies, emotions, and our spirits. I would say for billions, if not most, many billions. And Audre Lorde, Lorde, was an American professor, poet, and civil rights activist, not with us now, but she wrote this once. She happened to be also battling cancer at the time. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is an act of survival. Audre Lorde. From Indiana State University, on radical self-care. The assertion that you have the responsibility to take care of yourself first before attempting to take care of others. It's necessary to fill your cup first, then give to others from the overflow. That's what gives you the capacity to heal and move forward into the next chapter of life. It was and is an imperative practice to resist pressures to comply, conform, and above all, to remain true to our authentic selves. It involves embracing practices that keep us physically and psychologically healthy and fit, making time to reflect on what matters to us, challenging ourselves to grow, and checking ourselves to ensure that what we're doing aligns with what matters to us. We consider this radical because it fundamentally alters how we make choices about allocating time, money, and energy for ourselves personally at home and at work, and seeks to revolutionize our workplace practices. When practiced faithfully, it involves owning and directing our lives and choosing with whom, how, and how often we engage in our nested, interconnected worlds so that we can be unapologetically ourselves in the face of unrelenting pressure and expectations to be otherwise. Well said. Very well said. There was another piece I came across from integrativenutrition.com, and they say, what is traditional self-care? And often what comes to mind when we hear that, taking a bath, splurging on something you've had your eye on, getting a massage, spending time outdoors, and taking a nap are all examples of this. They make you feel better for the time being and help you relax during times of heightened stress and anxiety. And while beneficial in the short term, the effects of traditional self-care can fade relatively quickly, leaving you in the same place you were before and sometimes feeling worse. So ultimately, they say you know your needs best, and self-care is taking care of those first, but in a broader sense, radical self-care involves healing your heart and soul and your body in order to keep going. And on. They have other commentary, but there you have that. I came across this next piece by Ray Armantrout, and I thought you'd appreciate it. It's called Care. Dress like you care. Eat like you care. Care like you care. You don't think apples just grow on trees, do you? A fish taps a clam against a bony knob of coral to crack its shell, which demonstrates intelligence, yes, but is the fish pleased with itself? Alone in your crib, you form syllables. Are you happy when one is like another? Add yourself to yourself. Now you have someone. Thank you, Ray Armantrout. Well, I'm wondering, talking about care, how often you bring your heart, your caring heart, to all that you do. And what's the difference you feel when you do? I'm sure you know when you do, and when you don't, or when others do or don't. This is a piece of mine. I cook with my heart, on the plate, in the pan, with bright blue eyes and blue heat, through all seasons, all seasonings, around the menu and mise en scène, mise en place, over the wine of listening and nourishing I will pour into each spirit at the table, through the poetry I will pair with dessert, inside each eyeful and mouthful of love I will make, and we will taste and savor together. Yes, I have questions for you. We never know exactly when I'm going to ask you those, more of them, but here they go. About taking care and caretaking of varied kinds. Beginning with, how does care come from us? From you? From the outside? Or the inside? Or both? How do you discern when to take care? What's your prompting, the impulse or the impetus? How naturally does it come? How well are you taking care of your good self, of your body, and of your inner self, of your mind, your heart, your spirit, soul, tending the garden of your life? If very well, bravo. If not, why not? What's in the way? Are you taking care to make the most out of each day you're here? By opening, deepening, enlivening, enjoying, evolving. How do you go about nurturing your whole being and these parts, dimensions of yourself? How often? Or do you receive welcome, wanted nurturing? How open are you to receiving care or giving it? And if it's uncomfortable, have you ever asked or wondered why that's so for you? Is there a different kind of care you'd like someone or others to take of or with you? What about your home, your living place? Is it getting enough care, loving care, in a way you and others who visit feel that in the space, in the atmosphere? I'm sure you know that sense. How good are you or wish to be at preserving your precious time or energy or peace of mind by setting and holding to boundaries, saying no? I'm also curious who in your life, in whatever way, took beautiful care of you. And who did you ever take beautiful care of? Maybe are as I speak. Throughout time, so many have had to-be caretakers, not just parents of their children or those hired professionally. I'm thinking especially of grown children caring for their elderly parents, parents in need that way. Maybe that's you. So many stories I know of, from the challenging and consuming to the rewarding and inspiring. I'm sure you have stories of your own close up or nearby. What's the greatest kindness someone ever showed you? What does it feel like to be genuinely, thoughtfully cared for from where you sit? How are we taking care of our children? Thinking a lot about that lately. Our youth. Seeing how so many are dying way beyond usual. The immense rises of young suicide to the fentanyl crisis and all kinds of needless loss, abuse, and trauma. Much clear and known, but too widely unspoken about in the mass media where so many people are focused. How and where are you consciously looking out for the health of our natural world, of this dear earth, in the way you're living and making choices that affect it positively or negatively? What ways do you feel we all as a society could be taking more or better care of it? Maybe you're one of those doing so actively and wonderfully. If so, thank you. I'd like to hear about that. Much to ponder. All right, on we go. I want to revisit, I brought him in other programs in the past, Henry Beston's 1948 Manifesto for Reclaiming Our Humanity and Relearning to be Nurtured by Nature. The book is Northern Farm, and I'm bringing that up, of course, because nurturing ourselves is fundamental on many levels, from healthy food to healthy air and healthy doses of other parts of nature. Just grounding, just walking on the earth, barefoot if possible. Of course, not in the winter, not so easy, unless you're Wim Hof, who I spoke about in the Resilience program, the Iceman. Okay, just a quote. "Oh, work that is done in freedom out of doors, work that is done with the body's and soul's goodwill, work that is an integral part of life and is done with friends. Is there anything so good?" I would agree with him, Henry Beston. We can show our care for dear Mother Earth by kissing. Kiss the earth with your feet, the sky with your eyes, the sea with your ears, your life with your softly parted heart. A dear friend of mine in Mystic, Connecticut shared this next piece with me very recently, and it's so fitting. Advice from Maria Sabina, a Mexican healer and poet. Heal yourself with the light of the sun and the rays of the moon, with the sound of the river and the waterfall, with the swaying of the sea and the fluttering of birds. Heal yourself with mint, neem, and eucalyptus. Sweeten with lavender, rosemary, and chamomile. Hug yourself with the cocoa bean and a hint of cinnamon. Put love in tea instead of sugar and drink it, looking at the stars. Heal yourself with the kisses that the wind gives you and the hugs of the rain. Stand strong with your bare feet on the ground and with everything that comes from it. Be smarter every day by listening to your intuition, looking at the world with your forehead. Jump, dance, sing so that you live happier. Heal yourself with beautiful love and always remember, you are the medicine. Beautiful. Thank you, Maria Sabina. Gracias. I spoke at the opening about tending and attending to ourselves. I can't encourage you all more to do so all the time before all else. Put that first. Do not go fallow. Do not let the now verdant field of your body go fallow. Live without vital streams of sun, water, warmth, tilling, seeding. Your precious earth, lush self, so ripe, so rich a harvest of gatherings, yieldings, brought to life with intimate, ardent tending. Do not go fallow. I'm also encouraging you to connect and stay connected, well connected to your most natural self, most native self, your deepest, truest being, and flow it forth, sound it forth from every cell. Begin singing early. Be the first bird at the first light of your day, to fill the silence with song, with your song, with the hymn of your heart, the music of your mind, the melody of your body, with a singular song, one that comes from the mouth of your soul, comes early and daily, when you let nature, your nature, have its open, wide way. Kindness is a beautiful and, to me, essential dimension of taking care and how we care about others, known and unknown. We can never have enough of it. Maybe you agree. In Awaken, awakin.org, Small Kindnesses by Danusha Lameres. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by, or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. Small kindnesses. Thank you. Nisha Amaris. Who friends are the caring hands that have helped you in large or other ways. Sometimes they're visible and often they're invisible. This is All the Hands, poem from Shelter Harbor here in Rhode Island, March of this year. The surgeons, the ship captains, the cellists, the tailors, the mothers, the mimes, the good hands that heal and steer, serenade and shape, soothe and speak to us. I mentioned about saying no earlier, and from Psychology Today, there's a piece on saying no, how and why to. Saying no is an essential psychological skill and one that many struggle with. So that notion of no, of course, is about boundaries. And I'll just read you the bullet points here. It's important to recognize that every request and invitation carries an opportunity cost. Many struggle to say no to requests in order to better manage their time. They need to understand what is stopping them from saying no. There are a range of ways to respectfully say no while still maintaining healthy relationships. That's a piece from 2021, How and Why to Say No, if you want to read the rest of it. And there are other things out there, but I thought that was apropos. Okay. How about this one? Apropos of that, Jennifer Moxley, Moxley, Dividend of the Social Opt-Out. How lovely it is not to go, to suddenly take ill. Not seriously ill, just a little under the weather. To feel slightly piqued, indisposed, plagued by a vague ache or a slight inexplicable chill. Perhaps such pleasures are denied to those who never feel obliged, if there are such. How pleasant to convey your regrets, to feel sincerely sorry but secretly pleased to send them on their way without you, to entrust your good wishes to others, to spare the equivocal its inevitable rise. How nice not to hope that something will happen, but to lie on the couch with a book, hoping that nothing will, to hear the wood creak and to think, it is lovely to stay without wanting to leave. How delicious not to care how you look, clean and uncombed in the sheets, to sip brisk mineral water, to take small bites off crisp saltines, to leave some on the plate, to fear no repercussions, nor dodge the unkind person you bug. Even the caretaker has gone to the party. If you want something, you will have to get it yourself. The blue of the room seduces, the cars of the occupied sound the wet road. You indulge in a moment of sadness, make a frown at the notion you won't be missed. This is what it is. You have opted to be forgotten so that your thoughts might live. Thank you, Jennifer Moxley. I was also musing on fearfulness versus carefulness, and what would be interesting to source for us around that. A couple of things here. This is fear of happiness. Looking back, it's something I've always had. As a kid, it was a glass-floored elevator I crouched at the bottom of, my eyes squinched tight, or staircase whose gaps I was afraid I'd slip through. Though someone always said I'd be all right. Just don't look down, or see, it's not so bad. The nothing rising underfoot. Then later, the high dive at the pool, the treehouse perch, Ferris wheels, balconies, cliffs, a penthouse view, the merest thought of airplanes. You can call it a fear of heights, a horror of the deep, but it isn't the unfathomable fall that makes me giddy, makes my stomach lurch. It's that the ledge itself invents the leap. Thank you, A.E. Stallings, for that piece. And then I was actually thinking of this book before I even thought of the theme for the program. A couple of weeks ago. It's a book that I had read years back. The Gift of Fear. Excellent book. I would suggest everybody read it. Survival Signals That Protect Us from Violence. Yeah, must read. Absolutely. I think for all of us, but especially women, I would say, too. But here's just a quick overview of it. It's by Gavin de Becker, D-E and then B-E-C-K-E-R. True fear is a gift. Unwarranted fear is a curse. Learn how to tell the difference. A date won't take, quote, no for an answer. The new nanny gives a mother an uneasy feeling. A stranger in a deserted parking lot offers unsolicited help. The threat of violence surrounds us every day, but we can protect ourselves by learning to trust and act on our gut instincts. In this empowering book, de Becker, the man Oprah Winfrey calls the nation's leading expert on violent behavior, shows you how to spot even subtle signs of danger before it's too late. Shattering the myth that most violent acts are unpredictable, de Becker, whose clients include top Hollywood people and government agencies, offers specific ways to protect yourself and those you love, including how to act when approached by a stranger, when you should fear someone close to you, what to do if you're being stalked, how to uncover the source of anonymous threats or phone calls, the biggest mistake you can make with a threatening person, and more. Learn to spot the danger signals others miss. It might just save your life. And when you read the stories, you realize how many people's lives were saved or weren't as a result of having that developed or not. Well, that led me to think of this poem that I did read another time on another program. In these fraught times we're all in, somewhat dangerous times and places of the world and aspects. where we need to be, I would say, extremely on our toes, highly attuned to our instincts and intuition, gut and otherwise, when we're not sure what's afoot or is safe or true below the surface. This is sensing. I'm thinking this first day of a new year, after an earth-shaking last, of animals in the wild, how they sense, danger especially, and so keenly, so instinctively, have a whole awareness, always, of the visible and invisible, one their survival and survival of their young hinges on. And if we, animals too, if we have lost or disconnected our early warning radar, that sixth sense our early ancestors and, quote, primitive tribal people in the bush, jungle, forest, kush also had, and honed, depended on, attuned as they were to all the life or death sensations, signals, and vibrations of their environment. I'm picturing the deer in the winter woods whose large ears prick up, cup, and pivot to listen and assess the existence or imminence of a threat. The careful bird that takes knowing flight. Or those fellow creatures feeling far into the ground, using their sensors in their skin, their Pacinian corpuscles, from elephants in their feet to bobcats in their guts, enabling them to feel earthquakes, tsunamis, eruptions long before they arrive and move to safety. Sensors we possess, but now rarely practice using, out of touch as many, far too many, are with nature, outer and their inner. But all this dormant circuitry, maybe today, more than ever, no, definitely today, we men, women, humans need to awaken, activate, to feel, hear, taste, smell if, how, where we're at peril, amongst predators. Keep us out of a or any great unseen jeopardy, while there's chance. Now I'm no longer thinking, only cocking my ears, sharpening my sight, sniffing the surrounding air, feeling what's telling in my gut and subtly telegraphing below my open soles, sensing like an earth-wise animal. It was written New Year's Day 2021. What about experiences of caring by protecting someone in some physical or other way? Protecting the defenseless or the vulnerable. This is a poem by Stephen Spender. My parents kept me from children who were rough, who threw words like stones and wore torn clothes. Their thighs showed through rags. They ran in the street and climbed cliffs and stripped by the country streams. I feared more the tigers, their muscles like iron, their jerking hands and their knees tight on my arms. I feared the salt coarse pointing of those boys who copied my lisp behind me on the road. They were lithe. They sprang out behind hedges like dogs to bark at my world. They threw mud while I looked the other way, pretending to smile. I longed to forgive them, but they never smiled. Thank you, Stephen Spender. Yes, there's caring about loved ones, and there's also caring for the unknowns, and the less fortunate that we chance across. It's a poem by Kathy Engel, E-N-G-E-L. Now I pray. Ashen face, wool hat bobbing, the young boy's eyes dart to me, then up at the man pulling a rolling suitcase whose hand he holds, then back at me. His legs move as if without gravity. The man asks, "Do you know a church on this street that serves free food?" I want to say I know, that the names of churches on an avenue called Americas roll out of me. I want to tell you it is temporary, their condition. Suitcase, darting eyes, seeking free food at 9 p.m. in a big city on a school night. I want to tell you I don't, for a moment, wonder if that is really the boy's father or uncle or legitimate caretaker. Something in the hand-holding and eyes, having watched too many episodes of Law and Order. I want to tell you I take them to a restaurant and pay for a warm meal or empty my wallet, not worrying how offensive that might be, because in the end, hunger is hunger. I want to tell you I call someone who loves them that there is someone, and say, your guys are lost, can you come? I want to tell you I sit down on the sidewalk at the corner of Waverly and pray that all passing by, anonymous shoes marking the pavement, join in a chorus of prayer, humming like cicadas in the Delta. I want to tell you the boy and the man eat food encircled by the warmth of bodies. I want to turn the cold night into a feast. I will tell you, I am praying. Thank you, Kathy Engel. Linda Hogan's poem, To Be Held. To be held by the light was what I wanted. To be a tree drinking the rain, no longer parched in this hot land. To be roots in a tunnel growing, but also to be sheltering the inborn leaves and the green slide of mineral down the immense distances into infinite comfort, and the land here, only clay, still contains and consumes the thirsty need, the way a tree always shelters the unborn life, waiting for the healing after the storm, which has been our life. Thank you, Linda Hogan. That's from her collection, Dark, Sweet. Well, a paradigm of nurturing is surely mothering. Mothers and mothering. And what our particular experience was of it being mothered, what was that for you? And what about beautiful maternal and paternal energies, whichever source they came from? This is called Dear Mothers. This was written on a Mother's Day a few years ago. Dear Mothers, thank you, because we could never have done any of this without you. Could never have set foot on earth to begin with, let alone landed in the warm and welcoming lap of this life, our life, or been able to touch, see, and feel it, learn from it, wonder about, even sing about it. Be filled, surprised, and often thrilled by it all. Without you, dear mothers, we would not have had a leaping off point of a tender and surrendering kind for love, for cherishing ourselves and others as freely, as innocently as you naturally have, for being any kind of caring friends, partners, dreamers, lovers, or now or later appreciators of what it takes to bring a being to the world, a child of pure possibility into the world. How much giving, daily nurturing, oceans of hoping and believing. So for myself, and if I may, countless men, women, and children everywhere, to each and all of you mothers, thank you dearly, forever. I also want to give a nod to fathers and fathering, fatherly caring, how valuable to have had it, certainly in my own life, and how hard for those who never had it, or went, for those who without it. This is all those fathers, all those men beyond my own fleeting father, those teachers, those priests, those mentors, those uncles, those fathers of friends without a son of their own, all the giving men, the caring men across my life who fathered parts of me in want of fathering, some who are generously fatherly to me still, decades on, all those who, joined together, formed one beautifully loving, guiding father, and one more finely shaped man. How grateful I am for them all. So, dear listeners, know that regardless of all else, you can mother, and I would say ought to mother and father yourselves, no matter what, emotionally, whatever your age or place in life. And maybe that's a practice worth engaging for everybody. I was thinking about the caring that's done through food and cooking. This was a poem from the Olympic Peninsula, Washington State, Port Townsend, August 2010. A dozen summers ago, being cared for lovingly by my then daughter-in-law, who was making a pie for me and her grandfather, the pie maker. For with pounds of plump blackberries picked together after our sale, and dozens of transparents plucked from your brother's orchard, Nash's freshly ground flour, honest butter, and ice water, you work your pie-making magic in the oven-warm heart of your grandmother's kitchen, and soon serve up to us, 17 minutes sitting, slices of fragrant, fruited wonder, with large scoops of love and sun. The Pie Maker. Love Like Salt by Liesel Müller. It lies in our hands in crystals too intricate to decipher. It goes into the skillet without being given a second thought. It spills on the floor so fine we step all over it. We carry a pinch behind each eyeball. It breaks out on our foreheads. We store it inside our bodies in secret wineskins. At supper, we pass it around the table, talking of holidays and the sea. Thank you, Liesel Müller. Can we, friends, pour forth more passionate care for the world around us, for our corner of the world, whatever it is, wherever it is? And what a difference that would make if we all did that, started doing that every day. The world is ready. In case you missed the news, not in any headlines, but all the heartlines, the world is ready to be loved today. The whole world, from the birds and the clouds, the cities and their spires, to the tides and the downpours, the countrysides and their colors. Everything and everyone you're sharing this whole world, whole earth with, wake, breathe, dream your whole life with. Here, the heart, light, music, spirit of it, all ready and waiting for your loving. I came across Samuel Butler, who was, you would know him, he was a Victorian visionary and writer. He said life is like playing a violin solo in public and learning the instrument as one goes on. As I was thinking about the care we need to take with what we learn in our lives, not just book learning or school learning. And he also said, as the life of the race is larger, longer, and in all respects more to be considered than that of the individual, so is the life we live in others larger and more important than the one we live in ourselves. This appears nowhere perhaps more plainly than in the case of great teachers, who often in the lives of their pupils produce an effect that reaches far beyond anything produced while their single lives were yet unsupplemented by those other lives into which they infused their own. Like that. I thought you would like that too. Heart, gut, and root. How much longer shall we stay under the sway, the potent and impotizing spell of society's seeming wisdom, when there are 3 faithful guides to follow that have been within each of us all along? A triune of telltales that faithfully show us how our life wind is really blowing, and let us know where to set, keep, or alter course. Unerring guides we can learn to heed and trust, to lead us from deep inside out, without being led astray, however well-meaningly, by others who at most can only ever but guess unfathomably in. Billy Collins, today. If ever there were a spring day so perfect, so uplifted by a warm, intermittent breeze that it made you want to throw open all the windows in the house and unlatch the door to the canary's cage, indeed rip the little door from its jamb, a day when the cool brick paths in the garden bursting with peonies seemed so etched in sunlight that you felt like taking a hammer to the glass paperweight on the living room end table, releasing the inhabitants from their snow-covered cottage so they could walk out holding hands and squinting into this larger dome of blue and white. Well, today is just that kind of day. Thank you, Billy Collins. Well, when we have such days, dear listeners, that move us like that, to embrace them, let them stir us up and get us out and about. Never hesitate. Carpe diem. So coming to the last sharings now. Going hungry. What happens when you don't feed your heart, your soul, the deep nourishment it needs, it deserves? The daily regimen, bread and wine of joy, of deep loving, being deeply loved, as essential as the air you breathe to sustain the whole of living. Going hungry, going without this way, without this bounty of milk and honey for your spirit body, flesh and blood body, is no way for anyone to be or choose, no way for you to thrive or stay vitally alive, especially when it's all there for the inviting, the allowing, and partaking. Apropos not just of our theme, but of Thanksgiving, very soon ahead here in America, what if you forget the turkey? However tender and moist, the golden skin supremely crisp, the stuffing and the gravy, however savory. Forget the mashed potatoes, the pumpkin pie, and all the wine. What if you simply remember why you gather around a table of kindred others to begin with, this day or any day? Contemplate what fineness, fullness of art you can bring to each table, each other, before you even arrive to sit there. What good stories and nourishing reveries, poetries you can spread out on, sing out to the table. How greatly it matters every day you're here, every time you take time, make room to feast on your life, to toast your one and onlyness, and the lives and specialness of the others dear and near or far, who make it all the more joyful, flavorful, worthwhile, while you're here on earth. Then, on with, savoring the rest and grateful tastes of it all. On taking care with our emotional reactions, responses, here's philosopher Martha Nussbaum on how to tame our raging reactivity and nurture our noblest civic selves. This is from her book, Political Emotions, Why Love Matters for Justice. We need to investigate and to cherish whatever helps us to see the uneven and often unlovely destiny of human beings in the world with humor, tenderness, and delight, rather than with absolutist rage for an impossible sort of perfection. In February of this year of 2022, in the thick of the pandemic, the declared one, we still seem to be in and be ensnared in, came this poem. Maybe you can relate to it directly, vulnerably. It's called A World of Hurt for Our Pandemicized Times, a world of hurt. The world of hurt, the world of trouble, too immense to describe, yet too immense not to inscribe across the sky of every living memory, the one too many are in, have been in these years, not of their making, but of their suffering, having to suffer, to endure, some to exit, unable to bear more. The pain of losing a livelihood, relationships, one's resolve, belief in possibilities, being cared about. The loss or tossing away of equanimity, bodily integrity, sovereignty of self. A whole world of hurt those unscathed, unseeing, or choosing to look away, one hopes will soon or later come to see, feel an ache for, compassion toward, as fellow humans, if they feel into their fuller humanness. Our world that may only heal in time, may only turn from a world of hurt to one of wellness, good for allness, when together we become a world of heart. That made me think of connecting this piece I just read the other day from Orion magazine. It's from 2018, but I only came upon it. It's a conversation between Helena Norberg-Hodge with Wendell Berry. They're both giants of the local economy movement, quote, local economy movement. He's a poet and activist, author of over 40 books, including The Unsettling of America, and he's a lifelong advocate for ecological health, the beauty of your rural life and small-scale farming. Lives in Kentucky. Wonderful, wonderful man, spirit, and poet to me, as far as I'm concerned. And she founded Local Futures, which works to renew ecological, social, and spiritual well-being by promoting a systemic shift toward economic localization. And she has a film out called The Economics of Happiness. So this was a conversation they were having, but I just want to pull out just the opening part. She said, your words of wisdom are especially valuable today when so many people are feeling desperate and depressed. Many are giving up on humankind. They say things like human beings are just ignorant, stupid, and greedy, and we deserve to extinguish ourselves. And Barry says, that seems to me a cheap way out. I think there's some merit to be found among us and to be found in our history. There is a lot of bad in it, no question, but the interesting thing is to try to solve the problem, not escape it. And she says, it's also important to realize that the real problem is not human nature, but what I think of as an inhuman system. And one of the biggest problems we're facing is that the system has become so big, we can't see what we're doing and what we're contributing to. It's just such an inhuman scale. It's become like a giant machine that's pushing us all into fear and a terrible sense of scarcity. And he goes on to respond by saying, one has to begin with the fact that we're limited in intelligence and have no reliable foresight, so we won't come up with answers to the whole great problem. What we can do is judge our behavior, our history, and our present situation by a better standard than, quote, efficiency or profit, the ones that we're still using to determine economic decisions. So he said, I always come back to the standard of the health of the world, and it's the same as our own personal health. We can't distinguish ours from the health of everything else, and we know enough from the ecologist to know that it's a very complex and ununderstandable complexity of relationships that makes the world whole. It's a very good, I won't give you more because I want to end with a few other things. But it's a wonderful conversation you might appreciate. So, Orion Magazine. Linda Hogan's Lost in the Milky Way. Some of us are like trees that grow with a spiral grain, as if prepared for the path of the spirit's journey to the world of all souls. It is not an easy path. A dog stands at the opening constellation past the great helping hand. The dog wants to know, did you ever harm an animal, hurt any creature? Did you take a life that you didn't eat? This is the first on your map. There is another my people made of the great beyond that lies farther away than this galaxy. It is a world that can't be imagined by ordinary means. After this first one, the next could be a map of forever. It could be a cartography shining only at some times of the year like a great web of finery, some spider pulled from herself to help you recall your true following, your first white breath in the cold. The next door opens, and old woman counts your scars. She's interested in how you have been hurt and not in anything akin to sin. From between stars are the words we now refuse. Loneliness, longing, whatever suffering might follow your life into the sky. Once those are gone, the life you had against your own will, the hope, even the prayers, take you one more bend around the river of sky. Thank you, Linda Hogan. Naomi Shihab Nye, kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go, so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore, only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread, only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. Kindness, thank you, Naomi. She had 9. Well, next to last for us, for you, the heart and the hara, the center of loving, balance, serenity, anahata, the center of source, energy, gravity, sea of chi, adjoining reservoirs, alcazars of vitalities, polar chest to solar plexus. When they meet well, speak clearly, flow freely, one to the other, there's only great harmony with self, only true melody of self, a wildly vibrant life, symphony, sympathy. And last for now, friends, till next time, put an arm around yourself and have a good cry or a good laugh. Allow out a slow, soul-deep sigh. Put an arm around yourself, the arm of your best friend, befriending self, who's entirely there, always here, fully, faithfully, to walk or sit with, in silence, with no judgment, just infinite patience, sweet easiness. Whatever the sadness or gladness of your heart, no matter the weather of your day, your life, an arm you can call on, count on, to reach lovingly around you. Well, thank you again for leaning in, listening, and feeling in, for sharing the broadcast with your friends and others, and for those who send along financial donations in appreciation for a given show of mine or for all the energy I invest in these weekly programs, 133 as of today. Let me know if you have a suggestion for a future theme. My email is colin@thepoetorialist.com. I'd welcome knowing what your experience was of this show on taking care. How and why did it speak to you if it did? And I hope it did. If you are making a contribution, I prefer Venmo to Fivefold, Fivefold at pipeline.com, but I'm happy to accept monies by PayPal or by regular mail to P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island, 02891, or through my site, thepoetorialist.com, and the Donate tab. Patrons, yes, can also host or sponsor me as a working poet in residence in a given place in the world for a given time in a given season to create a new flight of poetic art and dedicate it to them. Email me to explore it. Meanwhile, you can hear all the broadcasts online on YouTube on the Floating Poetry playlist. I hope you'll lean in soon again. Until then, dear listeners, take wise and healthy care of yourself, of your body, your heart, mind, and spirit, of the place you call home, of those you love, of our good earth, and of all that truly matters. Goodbye for now, and good spirits.